Alright, so before we get into this, I want everyone to take a deep breath. In and out. And prepare yourselves, because today I might ruffle just a little bit of feathers. So I think enough time has passed that I can finally get away with saying this. So sit down. But I think Frieren was just okay. I think it was an okay show. Not a masterpiece, not an unbridled 10 out of 10, just okay. And before you get all frilly-necked lizard at me, just hear me out, and because I understand that we live in an age today where people rage bait for engagement, and I swear I'm not trying to do that. I'm not trying to be a contrarian for the sake of it. I'm just genuinely confused by the unprecedented magnitude of hype that this got, and would like help understanding, because y'all got me over here feeling bamboozled, flummoxed, and flabbergasted all at the same time. So if you're familiar with Carl Jung's collective unconscious, it's not unusual to see ubiquitous concepts permeate and sort of take over online. I feel like this happens all the time across all sorts of mediums. And usually a prevailing paradigm will kind of just take over, and that generalized consensus, people just kind of regurgitate it as a fact without actually like reconciling how they feel about it. At least that's how it seems to me. And honestly, sometimes I'm kind of right there in line with it. I mean, in the anime sphere, maybe everything actually is a JoJo's reference, and I think we can all agree that Gojo is a stud after all. But then there are also times when I'll be hearing something again and again and again, and it's just got me scratching my head thinking that I'm missing something. So, for example, I've seen so many people argue online that Demon Slayer is only held up by the animation and that it's otherwise just a mediocre show, or it's even bad. And it's like become so common that I've even seen hour-long breakdowns of it just talking about how the story is painfully incompetent. Which, I mean, I get on one hand that, yeah, it's a really popular show, so it would make sense that it does become open to that level of critique and discourse. But I also just feel like it's become so widely accepted that that's the case that anyone who dares to even try to disagree usually just gets a hive mind of aggression slapped their way. So my personal belief on it is that even if that were true, that it was like mediocre and just held up by animation, does it really matter? I mean, you can like something that's mediocre, that's totally fine, it's not a big deal. I mean, nearly every season of anime releases, there's at least one or two shows that I, myself, find that I'm unironically looking forward to more than the better and more popular competition that's come out. I mean, look at like Kamakatsu, which was as fun and chaotic as it was ambitious and innovative. And then we also had adventurers who don't believe in humanity will save the world. I think that one had so many animation faults, but yet I also found it oddly charming. It had like a weird blend of oddball misfit adventurers with an equally strange mix of fantasy and modern concepts, which you don't really see that often. And I don't know, just kind of looking forward to it week to week. We also have Human Crazy University, which was a show that I find wildly subversive compared to everything else that released, and nobody watched it, nobody talked about it, but it had a really decent story and some very likable characters.
執行そうだここは死刑囚が心を落ち着かせて最後の時間を過ごすための場所だテーブルの上の食べ物は自由に食べていいタバコを吸っても遺書を書く時間に当ててもいいぞあこれってもしかして下田さんありがとうございますうまいです
And yet all three of these shows, I think they're all just gonna kind of get forgotten and fade into obscurity. And that's also okay. It's fine that I enjoyed them. Back to Demon Slayer real quick though, because I don't think I'm going to make like a whole video out of this alone, so I just want to throw it in here. But I would also argue that it's not just animation. I think Studio Ufotable has nothing to prove when it comes to showing off how glamorous they can actually make their 2D animation look. But Demon Slayer is also an excellent example of building dramatic tension, increasing scale, using music to accentuate themes and tones. It does all of that to like such a great degree, and I feel like it's weird to overlook that because you think the story isn't quite what you want it to be. Yeah, there's plot holes, that's fine, but I think like everything else, the sum of its parts, supersede that to a heavy degree. I mean, before even knowing what the show was, I saw, you know, like that scene from episode 19, and then I instantly had to watch the whole show. And by the time I got to that scene, I was entirely immersed, and I'm not gonna lie, it kind of made me a little teary-eyed how beautiful it was. And I think the show just does such a great job, and I've been a fan since, and even though I do agree that some arcs are better than others, but I'm still along for the ride. I don't think that matters at all. Now, getting back to Frieren, before that show came out, I remember reading somewhere that the manga was award-winning, and that really intrigued me. I mean, I couldn't really tell you what award it won. I didn't really look that far into it. But just the fact that it was being advertised as an award-winning manga, I was just curious. Let's see what an award-winning manga can do. So I started reading it, and I didn't hate it, but I didn't really catch up before I found that my interest had waned. So it felt to me like the sort of thing that I can come back to every now and again and enjoy, you know, kind of like a slice of life show. It's not exactly gripping my attention with every chapter, but it's decent. So now that the show has come out, yet again, I feel like everyone's in on something that I'm not because it just took off. I mean, we have people agreeing unanimously that it's objectively the best show ever made, and I just don't get it. We've got hordes of people making sure that it's number one on my anime list, which, I mean, the story hasn't even concluded yet. How could you possibly assert that something that basically just started is already better than a story that's been so tightly resolved for so long? Like, please just explain this to me. I truly don't understand. It doesn't make sense to me. And then we've also got like so many other channels that are singing its praises. Some saying that it's even changed their life forever. I mean, I've read through so many comments stating that it's an unrivaled masterpiece. And I truly feel like I watched a different show. Like, am I missing something? Someone please explain this to me. And again, I'm not trying to be a contrarian. I liked Frieren. I thought it was a fine show. I even think it's probably above average in a lot of aspects. But I just think this level of hype baffles me. Like, this level of intensity of hype just baffles me. And it's got me wondering, like, is it just people's favorite anime and they're sort of conflating the idea that if it's their favorite, then that means it's the best? Like, is it an ego thing and it just sort of collectively took off? Which, I mean, to that, I would argue that obviously there's a very distinct difference between something that's being objectively best and something that's subjectively best. Or maybe it's just a symptom of how polarizing the internet can be. And then when you see a show like Frieren that's sort of like safe, I guess I should say, that's got like no problematic things going on in it, there's no like contention to have about it, it just gets elevated onto a pedestal. I don't know. For me, I think my favorite show happens to be Parasite the Maxim. But like, even when I'm watching that, I'm still aware of its faults and its flaws, and I'm also okay with the idea that some people out there might not like it. I mean, not everything has to be for everyone, and nothing is perfect. Not even Frieren. I mean, I've legitimately seen people arguing about this online. Someone tried to give it a critique, and I saw, like, a lot of people attacking this person. I don't get it. I don't understand. So after doing a little bit of introspection and self-reflection myself, I think I've isolated exactly what it is that Frieren lacks for me personally that makes it difficult for me to understand. Something that shows like Demon Slayer or Parasite have that intrigue me, where Frieren just didn't. And I think that is the idea of emotional resonance. So looking back, I think I had a hard time connecting with any of the characters. When I watch a show, usually I like to watch the characters overcoming some form of like emotional struggle or maybe moral conflicts. I love seeing character progression. Like that's the kind of stuff that I enjoy. So seeing the harrowing trials that Shinichi has to overcome, and he's trying to understand who he is and where he stands in the world when he's being surrounded by people snatching, cannibalizing parasites. And then also like the gripping fight of inadequacy that Tanjiro has, that he has to endure while he recovers his sister to save the people dear to him. I just find that interesting. Like Tanjiro is constantly getting his ass beat, but he's like, he doesn't give up. Like that's cool. And I think that the show has so many other factors surrounding it that add to that, like the nature that it has, and it makes for a very interesting and fun watch. And I also understand that there's definitely no shortage of shows that sort of exaggerate characters to a hyperbolic degree. And that when you have a show like Frieren that's like so grounded in realism without any of the weird, goofy anime gimmicks, like that could be refreshing to people. But I just feel like it's being praised for these qualities and also has a world where the characters have zero emotion. It seems like the life was just sucked out of them. And like, is that just me? Like, did you guys see that too? Like, I feel like I watched a different show. And I think just like adding to that, I don't think this is just me. I think emotional pull is a really important element for storytelling. It helps us to relate to characters and sort of informs us of their struggles and their feelings. So just to be clear too, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. You can totally have characters that are emotionally flat. It's just weird to me when everyone in the world is that way, and it makes it really difficult for me to emotionally invest myself in the characters and their stories when they themselves don't exactly seem like they're emotionally invested at all. I mean, and then when you start thinking about the characters too, like when it comes to Frieren, maybe that makes sense because like, yeah, she's basically an immortal elf. Like I could understand having a great deal of emotional distance from like yourself and how you feel. Like it's a clear part of the story that she's lost a lot of people in her life that she kind of already didn't care about, but she found that she did care about them and then lost them. But like, yeah, at that point she would already be emotionally numb. Like she's lived such a long life that would be an easy defense mechanism to just sort of internalize. And also like Ubel, which everyone loves, and yeah, sure, I love her too, but like her, I also understand since she essentially has like an anti-personal or an antisocial personality disorder. But like every single character is also like this. Like they all have little gimmicks and quirks, but like look at them at any other point in the show. They have no expression at all. Like where's the life? So I don't know. Is it just me? Like, am I crazy? Did anyone else see this too? Like, I feel like it's a really big... I don't even want to call it a flaw, because it's not a bad thing. It's just odd to me that the show got the level of hype that it did with something like that that's so apparent to me. Or maybe it's just something that I personally look for and it didn't have, and maybe other people just don't care. I don't know, so... you tell me, because I'm at a loss. But anyway, so what's the takeaway here? Is Frieren truly the best show ever made, or is it just a collective idea that people are just throwing into the void? I don't know. But I really hope this didn't come off as me just slam dunking on Frieren, because I really did enjoy the show, and I'll be looking forward to the next season too. I just feel like there are qualities that it lacked that made it difficult for me to connect with, and it felt like other people didn't have that problem, and it sort of created a conundrum within myself. That, and I just also thought this would be fun to write about and discuss. So, I mean, I don't know if anyone's gonna watch this, but if they do, then like, let me know what you think. I'm genuinely curious. Because I mean, like, after all, that is like one of my favorite parts of anime. I love the, like, both anime and sort of weeb culture. I don't know, the sense of community is fun, which is like part of the reason why I think High Dive's kind of disappointing in the sense that it has no comment section. There's no way to rate shows. Like, the community, it's all about the community. Like something it's part of the reason why I wanted to make a YouTube channel to begin with. I mean, I enjoy the idea that you could take 100 people and ask them for their 100 top shows, and you would probably have 100 different lists, some like wildly different than others. Like, that's cool to me. So again, I guess, yeah, maybe I was sort of left out of the excitement on this one. But that's alright. I mean, it's, again, not everything needs to be for everyone. And maybe Frieren just sort of touched some chords with some people that I maybe lack. I don't know. Who knows? But let me know what you think, because, again, I don't know. Yeah. Bye.